Everyone has a story, but those of us in this sales profession seem to have a lot of them. This time on Sales Talk with Joe. Whether you've been in sales for years or just starting your sales career, or you're even just thinking about a career in sales, Sales Talk with Joe is designed to help you become more successful. You know, I've done videos for the past 6 months that were sales tips or ideas or instructional designed to help you learn more about sales and incorporate some new items and new tools into your process of interacting with prospects and customers. And that's good. But you know, all of us have stories. If we've been in sales for any amount of time, we have some stories, some of them pretty interesting and some of them funny. And you know, when we get together with other salespeople, we like to talk about some of our stories. It's good. It helps us develop a camaraderie and helps us understand that we're not the only ones experiencing some unique things things that are unique about our profession. So I thought I'd share a couple with you today. And from time to time, I'll just do a video like this. One is interesting. One I think is pretty funny. And so we'll give this a try, see how it goes. And if you like this and want more of this, let me know in the comments. Hit the like button, share it with people. You know the routine. The first story I'm going to tell you happened to me when I was a young salesperson. I believe I was in my mid-20s, mid to later 20s. The customer that I was calling on was a customer. I was a manufacturer's agent. I think I've said that many, many times in these videos, which means I sold for more than one company. So if I had a customer that was buying some product from me, there was always more product to sell them. And I would revisit customers that were purchasing regularly on a regular basis to sell them more product, more and different products. Well, one customer I had, they were a very good customer. And the gentleman that owned the business, it was an auto parts distributing business, was a good businessman. He was a nice guy. I really enjoyed doing business with him. And he was in my mid to late 20-year-old eyes, getting up there in years. He was probably in his mid to upper 60s. And unfortunately, he had experienced some health problems, which required treatment and medication. And his medication made him drowsy. Well, one day I was in calling on this gentleman, and in the middle of a sales pitch, he fell asleep. And I'm pitching away and, looking down at my brochure, showing, pointing out some things on a brochure. I look back up and I see his eyes completely closed and he is actually lightly snoring. Now, I do not mean in any way, shape, or form to cast aspersions on that gentleman. I know it was because, number one, he was being treated for a medical condition, and medications certainly can make you drowsy. And number two, I was a typical salesperson at the time. I pitched. I didn't talk to the customer about their wants, needs, and desires. So I'm in there pitching, which I'm sure wasn't particularly interesting to him. And he fell asleep. Now I'm sitting there thinking, what do I do? I don't want to embarrass him. I don't want to make a scene over this. I want to, try to handle this as gracefully as I can. So what do I do? The first thing I thought was, well, I should just pack up my stuff and leave. But I thought, no, he'll be embarrassed. When he wakes up, he'll know that he fell asleep and that I just got up and left. And that would be embarrassing to him. I don't want to do that. The second thing I thought is, well, I should wake him up. But again, I thought that will embarrass him. He'll know that I had to make the effort to wake him up, that I knew that he fell asleep, and I don't want to do that to him. So what I wound up doing was taking some of the literature that I had, and part of it was a presentation binder, and actually dropping it on the floor where it made quite a loud noise. And that woke him up, and I went, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I accidentally dropped that. And I reached down and picked it up and set it back up and, kind of picked up on my pitch, where I noticed that he had, nodded off, and figured that he would, kind of pick up on it from there. So That was the only way I could think of to handle that. Now, I had talked to some other salespeople in my industry that did business with him, and several of them had the similar experiences with him. They had the same problem. And, it's quite unfortunate because he was a very nice man. And fortunately, he went through the treatment that he had to go through and recovered and was well and healthy for a while longer. So, again, I do not mean to cast aspersions on that gentleman in any way, shape, or form. He was a wonderful guy. He was bravely battling a medical condition that required some aggressive treatment. And one of the side effects was drowsiness, and he battled through that and continued to run his business. Great guy, and a great guy to do business with. But it was kind of, something to have a customer fall asleep while you're talking to them. Something else that happened to me that was really kind of interesting was I was in Buffalo, New York. This happened to be on a Thursday. And I was in Buffalo, New York, and I had scheduled a meeting. I actually was in Rochester in the morning. I scheduled a meeting with a customer in Rochester in the morning and in Buffalo in the afternoon. And I'd been out on the road all week. My intention was to meet with that customer Thursday afternoon. I had an early meeting, like about 1 o'clock. I expected the meeting to go for about an hour or so, and then drive back home to Pittsburgh, which was, 4 hours away. I was actually in Niagara Falls is where the meeting was with the customer, just north of Buffalo. So I meet with the customer, get in at 1 o'clock, meet with the customer, and the meeting goes extremely well and wound up going quite a bit longer than I expected it to. So I, at about 4:30 in the afternoon, a customer said to me, "Hey, we're getting close to dinner. Why don't you and I go out to dinner?" And I realized at that point that because of the long drive home, and I've been a long week out on the road, I was tired. I was up early that morning, that driving home probably wasn't going to be an option. I would just grab a hotel. And I said, sure. So we ended our meeting around 5 o'clock, packed everything up, went out to his favorite restaurant, had dinner, got done about 7 o'clock, 7:30. And I'm thinking, okay, now I've got to find a hotel. Well, it happened to be summertime, and trying to get a hotel around Buffalo, New York, or Niagara Falls, that vacation area in the summertime, if you don't have a reservation, is difficult at best. And I started calling around to several different hotels that were in the area, and all of them were completely booked. Started going down into the Buffalo area. All the hotels down there were completely booked. Went over to the Rochester area. All the hotels over there were completely booked. Tried down towards Erie, Pennsylvania. All the hotels completely booked. I mean, there were no rooms. Even tried as far south as Meadville, Pennsylvania, which was about a half an hour, 40 minutes south of Erie, PA. It was completely booked up. There was no hotel rooms. And I thought, oh man, this is going to be brutal driving home 4.5 hours after being up so early, and I'm tired, and I was concerned about my ability to safely do that. I really wanted to get a hotel. So I called a particular hotel chain that I happened to be a member of their loyalty club. I called their chain and I said, hey, I'm looking for a hotel room. Here's where I'm at. And the lady on the line checked and said, I'm sorry, we don't have anything available, but why don't you go over to the hotel? Why don't you call them first and tell them that you want to be put on their wait list? And that way, if a room becomes available, they will contact you and let you know that it's available so that you can be first in line to get the room. And I said, well, at this point, I didn't have a cell phone yet. And I said, well, I really don't have a cell phone. I'll go right over to the hotel and tell them that. And, maybe I'll get lucky. So I go over to the hotel. The clerk at the front desk, I give them my information. And I started off by saying, hey, I'm a member of your loyalty club. Here's my loyalty club number. I really would like a room if you get a cancellation. So the clerk types my loyalty number in. And says, okay, we've got you on the list. Well, and I go over and I sit in the lobby, and they had some coffee in the lobby. I grabbed a coffee and started drinking it. And About 15 minutes later, this clerk calls me over. Mr. Ferguson, come on over. So I go over and she says, gee, I'm sorry, I didn't recognize your name at first. Of course we have a room for you. And I thought, wow, that's pretty good. I'm really happy that I'm getting a room, and I'm not quite sure why recognizing my name has anything to do with that, but I'll take it. And so this clerk said to me, the only room that we had available was our honeymoon suite. And I thought, oh, this is going to cost a fortune, but I don't care. You know, it's late at night. I don't want to drive home, and I'll take the room. So the clerk fills the paperwork out, hands me the registration. The rate on the room was $49 for a honeymoon suite in Niagara Falls in the heart of honeymoon season. Now, you know, I'm beginning to get a little suspicious. I'm like, what is going on here? Why are they giving me this room special? Why are they giving me this incredibly special rate? I thought maybe it was going to be $490. As a matter of fact, I even said to the clerk, that's the correct rate. And the clerk said, that's the correct rate for you, yes. And I thought, well, why shoot Santa Claus? I'll take it. So I signed and signed in, go up to the room, unpack all my stuff. Now, I did have a laptop, so I opened my laptop, started to do some work to get caught up from the day. And about an hour into it, there's a knock on my door. And I go over and I wasn't expecting anybody. And I go over and I look out the little window type thing they have for you to look out, the peephole to look out. And there's a guy standing out there with a fruit basket in his hands. And so I opened the door and I said, yes. And he said, Mr. Ferguson. I said, yes. And he said, compliments of the management of this hotel. And he hands me this beautiful big fruit basket with a bottle of wine in it. And I thought, this is getting weirder by the moment. Why are they giving me a fruit basket and a bottle of wine? And there was also a coupon in the fruit basket for a free breakfast in the morning. And I thought, man, this is just, I have no idea what's going on. So I called down to the front desk. Hey, thank you very much for the fruit basket. That's certainly, unexpected. And oh, no, we're happy to do that for you, sir. So the room was wonderful, slept like a baby all night, comfortable bed, get up in the morning, and the only thing I have to do is drive home. So, kind of leisurely, I get ready, go down and have my free breakfast. Free happens to be my favorite flavor, and come back up to my room. And when I get back up to my room, I notice my phone on my desk has a message light. They used to have lights on the phones that told you had a message, and that light's flashing. So I pick it up, call down to the front desk, and I said, hey, there's a message light on. And the front desk clerk said, oh, yes, we have that you're checking out today. And I said, yeah, that's correct. I'm going to be leaving probably within, the next half hour or so. And they said, would you please stop at the front desk? Our manager would like the opportunity to meet you. Now I'm thinking, okay, this might be the moment where they say, oh, gee, we made a mistake. We gave you the wrong rate and you have to pay for the breakfast. And, I thought, okay, this is going to be time of reconciliation for everything. But I thought, I have to do it regardless. So I go down to the front desk, hand the clerk my key. And the clerk says, Mr. Ferguson, our manager would love to meet you. Can you wait right here? Sure. So the clerk goes over, knocks on the door, and the name plaque on the door has the gentleman's name, and he was the general manager. He comes out of the door holding a football and a black Sharpie or some type of a black marker, and looks around and says to the clerk, where's Mr. Ferguson? And she points at me and says, right there. And he says, that's Joe Ferguson? And the clerk said, yes. So he comes walking over to me again, holding this football and this marker and saying, you're Joe Ferguson? And I said, yes, sir, I am. And he said, you didn't play football for the Buffalo Bills. And I said, no, why would you even think that I did? And then I realized that before the Jim Kelly era for the Buffalo Bills in the late 1990s or the late 1980s through the 1990s, the Buffalo Bills quarterback was named Joe Ferguson. He was their quarterback from the 1970s through the early 1980s. And somebody somewhere along the line saw my name, Joe Ferguson, and made an assumption. And at that point, his face dropped and he was like, oh, he's like, I hope you had a good stay or something like that, and turned around and started walking back to his office. And I said to him, hey, for what it was worth, I had a great stay. I'll be back here again. And he went, good, and went into his office, and that was the end of it. So I wound up with quite a bargain in a hotel room because somebody confused my name with somebody famous. So anyway, that's my couple of stories that I wanted to share with you. I hope you enjoyed them. They were really funny at the time. And of course, like all salespeople, I have a lot more of them. So maybe sometime I'll do another video like this. I want to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you did enjoy it, please hit the like button. Comment. Leave me some of your stories. I'd love to hear some things that happened with you folks in your sales career. Comment, like, share, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. And thanks for watching Sales Talk with Joe. We'll see you next Thursday.